Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Before we dive on into today's review, I do want to remind you if you enjoy the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a couple of ways. First, you can make a one-time donation by way of PayPal, or you can become a monthly member of our Patreon. And you'll find links to those down in the show notes. Also, down in those show notes, you will find an invite link to our Discord server. Come hang with the gang over on Discord. So today I am going to be sharing my review of FlipToons from Thunderworks Games. This is designed by Jordi Adan and Renato Simoes. Hopefully I've come close to pronouncing those names correctly. The game is for 1 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, plays in around 15 to 30 minutes. It does carry an MSRP of $19.95. Should point out this was a Gen Con release. You can order it right now. It is shipping from thunderworksgames.com, and it is supposed to hit retail in September. More on that a little bit later in the review. So let's swing on over to the other camera because I've set up FlipToons. Before we get started, do want to mention my friends over at Thunderworks Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else associated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. The premise of FlipToons is you are a talent agent. You're competing with other talent agents in order to cast the next great animated show. Now, the style of the artwork here is very reminiscent of the old Max Fleischer studios, such as the Betty Boop cartoons, really early Walt Disney cartoons. They like to call it the rubber band style of animation. If you're a fan of Cuphead, then this art style will fit right on in with that sort of look. So as far as the production quality, nice tuck box here for the cards. The cards themselves have a linen finish, so they should hold up nicely. Although I will point out you are going to be shuffling cards a lot. So I would definitely recommend that you sleeve your cards, because if you pick up FlipToons, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to play this quite a bit, and that's going to be a lot of shuffling of cards. So just letting you know. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be building a cast. So this is a deck building game, and with most deck building games, you're going to start off with a small deck of cards that eventually you're going to want to call from your deck. So we are going to start off with a couple of caterpillars, a dragonfly, a snail, a bee, another caterpillar, and a skunk. So those are going to be our starting cards. We will also have a market. This is the market up here. This is a deck of all of the other characters out there that you can hire to join your cast. So what we're going to do is we are going to seed the market. So we're going to take 5 cards, and then we're going to look to see what their ranks are, and we are going to lay them out from low to high. So the lower ranked cards will be less expensive for you to purchase during the market phase. So we got 3, 4, 7, 10, 15. So the breakdown of the cards, we will see that we have the rank, we've got its title. We will find out how many cards are in the game. So the eagle, there are 2. You may have a special ability of that card. And then we have how much fame that card is worth, as well as any sort of other ability that will take place every time you flip the card. A lot of times, some of these special abilities might take place when the card is hired. So what you're going to end up doing is you are going to have a first player, and it is the last person to watch a cartoon, well, that is the first player. We also have this little Critics' Choice card. I'll talk about that at the end. It's got this little French frog on it. No, I am the critic. So we've got that there. Each player is going to get a player aid card and also a tracking card for you to track fame, because you're going to spend fame in order to recruit cast members. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your deck, and at the beginning of a round, everyone is going to flip. So you're going to lay out a 3x2 grid, and these cards, some have these special abilities and some will build off of cards that were flipped previously or after that, or maybe cards that surround it. So what you're going to do is you are going to total up your fame. You're going to do your fame check. But before that, as each card comes out, you're going to want to keep an eye out on special abilities, because some cards might stack on top of other cards, which will only count as a single card, although you are going to take both cards into consideration for special abilities, fame, and so forth. So as an example, the dragonfly here gets +1 fame for each unique card on either side or below it or above it. So the placement of the dragonfly as it comes out of your deck is very important. So here we've got 0 fame, 0 fame. So this is 0, but we get 2 because these are both unique. The bee has 1, so that's going to give us 3. And then the snail will give us a total of 5. We also have the skunk. And the skunk special ability is once you do your check fame phase, if you have the lowest, you dismiss a card in your grid for free, which is a big deal because you're going to cull a card absolutely free, because normally there is a fame cost. So we've got 5 fame. Everybody's total up their fame around the table. Now we're going to move to the market portion of the round. And the first player is going to go first, and they will have an opportunity to do one of 2 things. Either hire a cast member or dismiss a cast member. So to hire a cast member, you are going to spend the amount of fame above that card. So just to begin, players are only going to be able to get the 3 or the 4. So as an example here, let's say I am the first player. I say, okay, I am going to hire the butterfly. So I had 5 fame. See, this is your little tracking card, and you got a little arrow here for the blue, and you've got a little arrow here for the red. So I had 5, that brings me down to 1. Now, if I wanted to dismiss a card, I could do that for 5 fame. I don't have 5 fame left, so I'm only going to be able to perform that 1 action. But during the market phase, you get to take 2 actions. So if you wanted to dismiss 2 cards and spend 10 fame, you certainly could. If you want to hire a couple of cards, as long as you've got the fame available to you, you could do that as well. So once a card has been purchased from the market, you are going to bring out another card, and you are going to also reseed the market by the rank. It's pretty cool because right off the bat, you might be thinking, wow, if I'm going later on in the round, I'm not going to have an opportunity to buy stuff. Sure, you will, because you're going to refill this market every time that a cast member gets hired. So that is the market phase of the round. Then all you're going to do is you're going to take your cards, you're going to gather up your grid, you're going to take the card you just hired, which actually the reality is I could have dismissed the caterpillar when I hired the butterfly. So I will do that. You reshuffle your deck, and then you are ready for your next round. So you're going to just continue to do this. So the first player moves to the next person. So it just goes around the table and everybody will do their flip. So, real quick example here, 2 fame, 3 fame. This is going to be another 3. So that's 6. That gives me 8. I now have 8 fame that I can spend in the market phase. But keep in mind, I'm no longer the first player. So other players would be going around the table through the market phase until it comes back to me. Then I would perform my 2 actions if I wanted. Now I can certainly pass if I want to. So what's going to happen is you're going to continue building your deck. You're going to be culling out some of the cards. So as an example, Caterpillar is not doing anything for us. So we want to get rid of the Caterpillar. We want to get rid of the bee at some point because the bee only gives us 1 fame. So it's pretty interesting because these cards will all have these various different abilities. And there are a lot of interesting decisions that have to be made as you're playing this. And Elliot and I were really surprised by the amount of strategy that starts to come into play. What cards do you want to add to your deck? What cards do you want to cull from your deck? You may hire some cast members early in the game, and then they kind of become dead weight a little bit later on. So you want to get rid of them because what's going to happen once one player in the check fame phase hits 30, that is going to activate the end game. So once that happens, we're going to have one more market phase for everyone around the table. And then we're going to gather up our deck. Whoever had the most fame during that check fame phase will get the Critics' Choice Award, which is going to be worth 3 fame. And then you're going to do one last flip. So it's possible you could have 12 cards in your deck, 10 cards in your deck. You may not get the layout you want to get the most fame. And it is really, really interesting how you could have a flip come out and you've got your grid of 6 cards and it is absolutely gangbusters. And you're like, oh my gosh, look at all that fame I've got. And those same exact cards, just in a different configuration, you could be sitting there saying, what? I didn't get hardly any fame out of this. Really adds a lot of tension to that final flip because it's the final flip that counts. So when you tally up the fame from the final flip, whoever has the most fame is going to be the winner. And of course, there are some tiebreakers here too. There are solitaire rules for playing FlipToons by yourself. I have not tried it out. There is also a mini expansion that we got. It is the Big Button expansion. I have not taken a peek at that either at this point. So we're looking at playing this with 2 to 4 players is what I'm reviewing here, which I would think the majority of the time is going to be how you'll be playing FlipToons. If the solitaire is anywhere near as robust as the actual game itself, then this is going to be a no-brainer to pick up if you enjoy lightweight deck building games. But I've got a little more to say about FlipToons. So let's flip on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. I have got to say, I was blown away by how much fun I had playing FlipToons. We got this from Jess Carrier over at Thunderworks Games on Saturday night at Gen Con. Well, Saturday afternoon at Gen Con. And we broke this out Saturday night and played it 5 times. And we had other games that we could have cracked open and learned to play and started playing. But the first time we played FlipToons, played it wrong. Second time we played, still we're playing it wrong. We were actually carrying over fame from round to round, and that's not the case. You spend the fame in the market phase, anything that's left over is just lost. Didn't catch that, and that actually led to games ending early, and it was sort of like, we hardly recruited any characters for our decks. This is kind of weird, but we knew there was something to the game that we were really liking. So once again, we kind of dug through the rule book and we're like, okay, yes, not doing this correctly. So from the third play on, we were playing it correctly and just absolutely loving it. It's really wild because you've got the grid, and the way your cards come out in that grid is going to have a huge impact on the fame score you get for that round, because there are cards that work with other cards and there's cards that stack with other cards. So you might have cards that have some sort of effect on the card that was flipped prior to it. But if that's the first card that gets flipped, it really doesn't do anything. It'll just give you the fame. Same thing where something might have some sort of effect on the card that gets flipped after it. But if it's the 6th card in that grid, then it does nothing. So it's really wild how, from round to round, even if you had the same exact cards coming out, things can be different, even with the starting deck of 6 cards. Pretty wild. So I got to say, we had an absolute blast with this. This is a lightweight deck building game that's got a lot of depth to it, especially when you take into account all the little special abilities many of the cards have. It is very, very cool. Now, I do have to point out, a little birdie over at Thunderworks Games has told me FlipToons is almost sold out. That's right. Gen Con was a week ago. I'm getting this review out as quickly as I possibly can, and you may not be able to get your hands on FlipToons. So as of this recording, it is still available by way of thunderworksgames.com. And it is supposed to hit retailers in September. So that would mean I would think distributors already have copies of FlipToons. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure. But if you're interested, then you want to act fast. And I've got to say, on a scale of 0 to 10, I give FlipToons a 9 out of 10. The only thing that stopped this from being a 10 out of 10 was I think the rules could have been just a tiny bit clearer, and maybe you've had kind of a bullet point page with rules where it's like, it's important to remember these rules. But other than that, just a blast. Production quality is excellent, especially for a card game going for just under $20. Pretty phenomenal. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.